Imagine a city where fear lives in every shadow. Buenos Aires in the late 1970s was gripped by a series of strange, unsettling incidents. Women were found unconscious in scattered locations across the city, with no memory of what had happened to them. Near each victim lay a mysterious symbol etched into the dirt, a haunting, silent mark that left locals terrified and authorities baffled. No one knew who or what was behind these incidents, and the fear that gripped the city was unlike anything it had seen before. These incidents continued for 5 years, and no one could predict when or where the next would happen. The police started investigations, trying to find answers, but no clues or suspects ever turned up. It was as if the person responsible wasn't real, like an invisible hand working in the shadows. Then, just as quickly as it had begun, it all stopped. The incidents ended, and the city was left with no answers, only fear and speculation. Buenos Aires moved on, but the mystery stayed in people's minds. Who was behind these strange events, and why had they stopped? It was a question that would haunt the city for decades, until a young journalist stumbled upon something that would bring the mystery back to life. In the year 2000, Javier, a young, eager journalist, was working late at his office, looking through old files for a story on unsolved cases in Buenos Aires. It was supposed to be a regular article, not anything big, just a way to fill space. But as he flipped through dusty files, something caught his attention. It was an old police report from 1977 describing one of the incidents. It talked about a woman found near a park, unconscious, with a strange symbol drawn close to her. This same symbol had shown up in other reports from that time, all tied to similar cases. Javier couldn't shake the feeling that there was more to these cases than met the eye. So Javier began digging deeper. The more he read, the more curious he became about the case. Reports from 1978, 1979, and 1980 showed the same pattern. Each victim had been found in a different part of Buenos Aires, but the symbol was always nearby, like a strange mark left behind. Even though police had investigated the cases back then, no suspects were ever found. The cases had simply gone cold, disappearing from the public eye. But Javier wasn't ready to let it go. The further he went, the more disturbing the details became. One victim, a woman named Clara, had been found outside her apartment in 1979. She had no memory of how she ended up there or what had happened. The only clue was the symbol left near her. It was the same story with the other victims, unconscious, confused, and with no memory of the events. How could something like this go unsolved for so long? Javier's investigation led him to a quiet neighborhood in Buenos Aires, a place that hadn't changed much since the late 1970s. He started knocking on doors, speaking with locals, trying to gather any memories or hints that might still be lingering from that time. It was then that he heard a name that would change everything: Hector Ramirez, an elderly man who had lived in the area for many years, keeping to himself, blending into the background. Hector had never been questioned during the original investigations. To the locals, he was just a quiet, ordinary man, someone who never attracted much attention. But as Javier spoke to more people, odd details began to surface. Some remembered seeing Hector walking late at night, often in the areas where the incidents had happened. Others recalled strange behavior, seeing him muttering to himself, and his habit of drawing symbols in the dirt, symbols very similar to the ones found at the crime scenes. Javier knew he was onto something, but he needed more proof. He began watching Hector's movements, putting together details of his life from the 1970s to the present. Hector had never left Buenos Aires, never changed his daily routine, and had stayed in his small apartment in the same neighborhood. It was as if he had been hiding in plain sight for years, invisible, just like the strange events he might have caused. The breakthrough came when Javier found an old journal belonging to Hector, hidden in a forgotten box in his apartment. Inside, page after page, were drawings of the same strange symbol that had been left near the victims. There were also notes, thoughts about control, power, and fear. Hector had been writing about his actions for years, describing the people he had targeted and the satisfaction he felt from staying hidden, unseen. With this evidence, Javier went to the authorities, and they reopened the case that had been cold for over 2 decades. The police launched a new investigation, finally questioning Hector for the first time. As they dug deeper, more evidence came to light: maps of the city, old newspaper clippings about the incidents, and even personal items belonging to the victims. It was all there, hidden in plain sight for years, waiting to be discovered. Hector Ramirez, the man no one had suspected, was finally caught, his secret life brought to light. He confessed to everything, explaining how he had carefully chosen his victims, how he had drawn the symbols as a way of marking his control over them, and how he had stopped because he felt he had achieved everything he wanted. The people of Buenos Aires were shocked. For years, they had lived among a man who had caused so much fear and confusion, and yet no one had ever suspected him. This story isn't just about the horror of the crimes, it's about the determination of those who refuse to let the truth stay hidden. Javier's determination to follow the trail, no matter how cold it had become, brought justice to those who had been forgotten. This case serves as a reminder of the importance of revisiting old cases, of never letting time erase the chance for justice. But beyond the crime, there's a lesson here for everyone, about the dangers of ignoring the signs, of letting fear push us into silence. In a city as large as Buenos Aires, it's easy to feel lost, invisible, unnoticed. But sometimes, the people we overlook are the ones who hide the darkest secrets. As this story comes to a close, it's important to remember the victims, those who were left without answers for so many years. And it's also important to remember that justice, no matter how long it takes, can still be served. Thank you for watching this episode of Zhee Investigates. If you found this story engaging, don't forget to subscribe and stay tuned for more mysteries uncovered from the shadows of time. Remember to stay alert, stay safe, and never underestimate the power of persistence in the search for truth.